you all. Good afternoon. We're going to start with session 10 of this 24th conference of the International Observatory on Participatory Democracy. Some of the questions that trigger the need for this panel are: what institutional, cultural, and technological conditions are necessary to implement open government policies effectively and sustainably? How can we ensure that transparency and open data are accessible, useful, and understandable to all citizens? That's the reason why we open up session 10, Open Government and Transparency. The speakers of the panel are Roberto Neira Aburto, Mayor of Temuco, Chile; Bruno Venancio, Open Government Coordinator of Sao Paulo; Mercedes Nassif, Open Government Partnership Representative; Manuel Esnaola, Undersecretary of Political Innovation, Government of Province of Córdoba; Wojciech Firek, researcher at Jagiellonian University, Poland; and Anderson Farias, Mayor of Brazil. Moderator Alejandra Schiavoni, General Director of Smart City Planning. Thank you very much. Thank you all for being here today in session 10th of the annual conference of OIDP. I am really happy of being here to reflect upon the importance that it has for our communities to think of an open government and to think of transparency, participation. So we believe that this session may give you an outlook on how the open government can contribute, and is still doing it, to have a democracy with a bigger impact and that can be sustainable with time. You have already known the speakers of this panel, so just to thank you for the input that you're going to make during this session. Together, we're going to see how local governments, and we see here examples of Latin America, local governments, and foreign governments. So we're going to see how local governments use practice of open government to build democracies that are more solid. We will know this by means of a specific experience that all the speakers are going to share with us. In order to start, I'm going to give the floor to Mercedes. She's the representative of Open Government Partnership, and she will give a reference framework about the topic.
Thank you, Ale. Thank you, the City of Córdoba and OIDP for this space. We're all here because we know that participation is fundamental. It's a force that is transformative and allow us to build cities that are more fair, more resilient, and with the open government partnership, we have very many examples of how this is happening around the world. So that's why I want to show you a very short video, if you can put it here on the screen, to understand what happens when citizens are part and when the government opens their doors. So I'm going to move to the side so you can see this with the subtitles in Spanish.
Local governments and
local governments to solve the problems that affect people.
It provides the space for people to engage in decisions that affect them. The Basque Country in Spain established Open Escola to train local governments, civil society, and residents to identify challenges and create spaces for citizen participation. Thanks to this, citizens work together to find solutions to pressing issues like public health, including teenage drug use and support for caregivers. An open government actively includes everyone, leaving no one behind. In Bogotá, Colombia, the government partnered with experts to train over 6,500 women in leadership and technical skills, empowering them to participate in budget planning and even run for office. When governments, civil society, and communities co-create decisions, the solutions are more effective and more sustainable over time. In Sekondi Takoradi, Ghana, where climate change poses growing threats. Over 700 citizens co-created a climate action plan prompting fisherwomen to develop more efficient cooking methods, farmers to embrace climate-smart techniques, and schools to run tree planting initiatives. In South Cotabato, Philippines, the government and civil society involved citizens in monitoring the construction of roads, schools, and health facilities, prompting contractors to deliver vital projects like a new bridge to provide students with a shorter path to reach their school. By advancing transparency, participation, and accountability, we're building stronger communities and improving people's lives together.
Gracias.
Thank you, everyone. As you can see, there are several examples on participation. The thing is that some of them are an exception. If we do a project on participation, then they are not sustainable, or maybe they don't have the impact that we were expecting. So we ask why that happens. And that's kind of the introduction that Aile gave. And that happens because for participation to be impactful and sustainable, it needs a whole ecosystem to support it. It needs mechanisms that transform the way we build public policies and make decisions. Some of those mechanisms are the access to information, accountability, inclusion, and collaboration. So what does that mean? When government is transparent, people have access to information to be able to participate in an informed way. When government has accountability, people know that their participation is going to have consequences. When public policies are inclusive and accessible, participation is not a privilege anymore, and it turns into a right. And when there is collaboration, the agents talk, and they also have a vision and a commitment. That's why we call this an open government. That's the ecosystem needed, and that's what we want to do from the Alliance of Open Governance. And that's what we need from this society and different partners. We want them to sit together and they look into commitments to work as a team, and then they bring their accountability on their implementation. So to do this, we need more than good intentions. We need a cultural change where the government goes from implementing some initiatives of citizen participation and also to do it with social participation, civil participation. And that happens because we're talking about a cultural change. And there are some things that are needed as well, like support from the politicians. As we saw yesterday afternoon, in that meeting, there were so many mayors, council members, and they were committed to participation. And with things that I mentioned before, like accountability and decision making. So it's so important to have the support from politics. And to also have a community that is compromised. Also to have tools that are useful to turn those ideas into concrete actions and to have incentives to make this sustainable. From OGP, from a local level, we try to help with those conditions to turn into a reality. I wanted to share this because you don't need to be a member of this organization to have this support. But one of the things that we do is to inspire. We share examples as the one that I tried to share with that video, so you can see and you can share with your city officials, because it's important to see those changes inside the government. And you can share that also with your community to see how open government can have an impact on the lives of people. We try to inspire and create networks. We have one that is called Local Circle, that this is an initiative led by NGO local NGOs, and these spaces allow local governments to talk about different designs in public policies such as climate, corruption, the agenda for 2030, and the other thing that we try to do is a manual for co-creation. We talked about how important it is to have all of these tools for this process of co-creation, and also to work as a team with the social government. This manual or this textbook is available for everyone if you're interested. So this idea as the manual, as a notebook, is one of the things that we proposed more than a year ago, to have an open government. And we invite everyone to be part. If you have a reform in a very ambitious way, we invite you to show your proposals. And we would like to give some visibility to those proposals. We also would like to talk about anti-corruption, climate, and other topics. So from OGP, we want to continue give you the idea to continue giving the transformation from the cultural change in your government and communities, so participation is not so sporadic and it becomes impactful and long-term throughout time. Let's continue building together.
Yes. Thank you, Mercedes. Thanks for bringing this concept up, because it sometimes may be complex, but you have gone through all the concepts that comprises OGP and to work in an environment, in an ecosystem. So this gives me the floor to speak with Manuel Esnaola from the province of Córdoba, who would like to speak about how Córdoba is building the open government. How did Córdoba do to build a community with an open government?
Good afternoon, everyone. It's an honor to be here talking to all of you. I brought a picture where there is a set of pictures, and you can see that this is real. Here in Córdoba, we have built a strong community. And I believe that the links within those communities have shown a strengthening by concrete results. I want to highlight that, because one of the things of these conferences is to build communities, and it's part of like seeing concrete results in public policies, where governments are not the only ones doing it. They are done with the community who is responsible and should also receive the merit from them. This is an international event. I want to say that Córdoba is one of the main places in Latin America regarding universities. We have one of the oldest universities here in this city, and it's an honor for us in this community to have representatives from 2 universities that we have in our province. From the 24 universities, we have people. We have the head of the universities and people who have had several years of experience working with us. You can see in this picture the different meetings that we create to have to take place. And we have 3 main commitments. One of them has to do with active transparency and open data. Before coming into the conference, we saw that we have many networks and links. Julio Romero texted me and he said, Manu, I know that you're going to be in the panel, but I have to go and I have to give a course. But I want you to know that for the bachelor's degree, we have mentioned to use the portal with open data so people can do that for their thesis, for the students. This is a real example that something I received 10 minutes ago. As I said, community for a show does not work. The success of this engagement, of having a community working with you, is by seeing concrete results in public policies. We had 4 years of term in the parliament in Córdoba. We were able to get, after 20 years, to modify the internal laws of the chamber to have an open legislature. This is institutionalizing, and this is one of the things that the OGP has. We don't want these things to stop after the end of a term of a governor or a mayor. We changed the chamber, and that chapter is still working. So the head of the universities and the directors, they know that they were part of that chapter in history. So you can tell there that there is an exit from a real community. And it's not a thing to be showing all of this from the two main universities in the province and the different civil organizations. To sum up, because I want Ale to be able to ask questions, but as Ale mentioned about the cultural change, we are always fighting in open government against ourselves, because governments need to understand that transparency and action need to go beyond promises. They need to perform changes in power, where power is distributed. And in nations or in government, this is expensive. For those who have studied politics, you can tell that this is difficult to do. It's a policy that is very rigid, has different rules and laws. So the idea is to fight from the inside. So I'm going to stop right there.
Manu, one more question. These processes are complex, as you said. They are long, they take time. But I know that in Córdoba, the advances were super fast, on record time. Which were the keys, if you can think of key concepts that you applied to make it happen?
Yes.
3 key concepts. One, by being legitimate on the work that the meetings perform or do. As we know, the head of the universities, they come and work with us for 1 hour. Second one is to have methodologies that are fast. Like in 1 hour, we have to move forward, so meetings are productive. Virginia, who is the director of strategy and participation, is a person who makes this happen in the meetings. And I also think that the experience that we have from having scholars with a lot of training, and also by having the law of access to public information in Córdoba, we have people with knowledge here in Córdoba and that believe in the process. And we expand this to the community and think outside of Córdoba. We have had meetings with Buenos Aires, Santa Fe, Mendoza. And today, a law for access, kind of like copy and paste. Most of them are very similar. But in these meetings, we decided to do something different. We saw what were the challenges when applying a law. So we asked those that have recently implemented the laws to see what their obstacles or the challenges were to be able to write a law. There is some legitimacy in the space where we're working. If you basically take a picture and post it on Instagram, open government becomes a slogan.
Thank you very much, Manu. I think that we all believe that these are better practices that can be replicated. Thank you very much for sharing that. So now we're going to travel to Sao Paulo, with Bruno Venancio, the Open Government Coordinator of Sao Paulo. He's one of the leaders in open government in the region, and is one of the members of the Open Government Partnership since 2016. So, Bruno, how did Sao Paulo use the concept of open government to start participatory initiatives that were in isolation to something more systemic?
Falando em português, então, mas eu falo.
I'm going to speak in Portuguese. I'll go very slowly. It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you, Oidp and Córdoba, to give me the opportunity to represent the mayor's office from Sao Paulo. Sao Paulo has 11 million people living in there, thousands of public officers working. So I'm going to show you 3 different phases of how that happens. The first one has to do with history, and the last one with ecosystem. There is also a 4th one on how we contribute to Brazil. In the first phase that has to do with history, to incorporate open government, it happened in 2013. The control body was created in the mayor's office because there was the goal to incorporate transparency into the administration. With transparency, people participate, the citizens participate, but if they do not know what is happening, they don't. In Sao Paulo, we decided to take a different route. The government decided to promote the open government. The institution that I coordinated in 2022 coordinated this initiative in 2014. In 2016, we became part of OGP. That basically makes us think that we basically know that the structure is for people to be involved, to open the government, for citizens to participate. Here you can see in the image on the screen that we have the initiatives to the right, Initiative for Open Government, and others. The Open Government Initiative started in Sao Paulo was basically to involve the community. We want the community to know that the government is open. In real life, we have 3 ways of bringing out the information. One of them was through open government with training to 17,000 people. We also hire people that have training in different areas like health, sustainable development, and others. We also bring free training for the population to know how the government is working in these initiatives. So this is a relationship between the members of the mayor's office and the neighbors. We also have to involve public officers for them to have training within the mayor's office. So we want public officers to have training, to apply the training in their daily work. We also have some sort of games within the government. We use memes to invite the youth to participate as if they were the mayor. Every role that they have is a game where they can decide about different challenges, and that gives them the idea that they are the mayors, and they can see how to use limited resources. Once we train employees and population, we move into the second phase of this cycle. This is the open government from OGP. We have an area responsible of that part, and we think about which areas in the population need to be open, where they need more access to data. and that data is co-created with the population. At the same time, they are assessed and they are carried out with the population. After that, we do an independent evaluation from external party. And once that plan is concluded, we see how to move to that initiative. Some actions are also consolidated so they can be done throughout time and long term. One of the things, Participe Más, was a platform that was designed out of what happened in Madrid with an open code. That's part of the second action plan and was consolidated in our consolidation of open government. And now part of the third cycle, the third stage, is basically how do you build an open government? We knew how to build it, but the ideas were in different ways. In 2018, there was this idea where when the new administration is elected, there is a plan on how to choose social participation. In 2014, the initiative was created, and this was and a new law was created where part of this agreement was to meet every 2 months to align the government strategies, and these proposals for participation bring harmony to the government. So everyone who wants to bring these initiatives on participation go to this platform. We support them to be able to move forward with the goals of the program. This committee that works with different sectors gives enough weight about what happens in the mayor's office regarding open government. We also train public officers and the society. And then as an extra, as a bonus, we brought the network of open government in Brazil. Sao Paulo was pioneer or at the forefront of the open government. We have many municipalities like Sao Paulo that has several people living within the limits. And that was a challenge about how to see the open government. So we try to see how to incorporate these initiatives within all the municipalities. We give advices and support to them. But thank you so much.
You spoke about collaboration, co-creation, training as strategies, and what struck me the most is the high level of commitment in the high executives. Can you tell us a little bit about that, how you sustain that on time?
Causam esse comprometimento, né? O primeiro é o decreto que define o comitê.
The first one was the agreement from the committee for open government. So the different secretariats are linked between each other. They need to be updated. But the main aspect is the action plan. We always include the secretaries for them to understand the challenges and get to know the population. They have the opportunity as well to talk with the people. A commitment was created from the people to understand what was needed. So they create consensus and they talk to the people. We have created 3 action plans, creating the 4th one now.
Very interesting, all the experiences that the speakers are sharing. Let's move through Latin America. So we have here the mayor of Temuco, and we would like to know, Mayor, why was it important for Temuco to incorporate this approach and the tools of open government? Well, first of all, I would like to thank you for the invitation. The participation, transparency, and the fact that the citizen needs to understand that the local government is always open to satisfy their needs by an active listening to their needs. So this changes the perspective, and this helps us regain the trust in public entities. So as mayor, we are basically the municipality. We are the door to the state. So if there isn't a rapid answer, quick answer, the citizen gets tired or gets angry. So mayors are constantly receiving citizens on the ground and the needs on ground. So how do we face that? Well, it can be very simple via WhatsApp. We say, I am a mayor that receives WhatsApp from my citizens because this is an open government. This is the way I can be closer to citizens. Temuco is not like Sao Paulo. It has 300,000 inhabitants, but we have established a type of policy that is based on citizen participation by creating a specific office, and we are moving forward in this process. Since we, as well as we have created policies that stem from the needs of the citizens and the data that we have shared with them. Generally in Chile, I don't know what happens in the rest of the countries, in Chile we have an overdiagnosis of the issues. With the office carries out an assessment, and 2 years later the problems are still there. So in terms of health, for example, we created a citizen network of health. That is the input for that network is from the citizens, and this is translated into participation. We created a program that is called AloRed. Is technology and innovation. When I was a city member, we had severe issues in the provision of services for health to the elderly. So we created a system of call center. The person calls there, and based on how severe the situation is, we can do a video call. We can go to their house to provide them care, a kinesiologist, a physician, whatever the problem. And that person, for the first time in their life, the state is going to their places. And he or she recovers the trust in something that is so crucial, such as health. We created the Office of Citizenry Protection. How many people are victims of crimes and they never get a solution after the crime was committed, independently of the police capturing the thief or the delinquent? So how the municipality can work together with them. So we have created an office for the citizen protection with psychologists, where we take care of these persons. We go to their places, we stay with them, we provide psychological care, legal care. So at the end of the day, we are taking the elements of a government that is actually accessible to people and not the other way around. The concept of representative democracy is far from the real. This is a transition, and we are far from being fully have a participatory democracy. But we believe that we are halfway through. Basic experiences that we have in terms of safety. Safety is something that impacts on liberty. Is one of the human rights, basic human rights after a life. So if a person is not free, and if I go to a neighbor's meeting and I said, are you going to the meeting with us? No, Mayor, I'm not going to go because I have to leave my house alone and I fear of thieves. So how do we work on that? Well, first of all, we started speaking with neighbors to see which were the elements safer for them. So we worked with them in different areas of the city and started seeing places that we weren't able to detect before as safer, for example. The market in the corner, or a specific medical place. So we carried out surveillance with data. We go to speak to the neighbors, and we indicated that market in the corner are safe places for them. So we go to those markets and we speak with those people, and they are the bridge between the municipalities and the citizens. Sometimes what we finally got with this type of initiatives, I have 3, but I am presenting just one, is that it is not only in terms of the academia, but it is how we translate those abstract concepts into action. Temuco has 5 universities for the number of inhabitants that the city has. We have 3 private universities and 2 public universities, and we have the concept of the city of universities. We need to speak with Córdoba. We carried out a congress because we are working together with the deans and the directors of universities to see how can we analyze the data that they share with us in terms of open government, and we take that into action into the city for the citizens to see that we are working on providing solutions for their issues. That is what we are doing, translating the abstract concepts into real actions to solve real problems. That's what we do as municipality and how we move forward. As I said, we are not 100% with all the problems solved. The same happens in different countries of Latin America, and I know we are all working together to move towards an open government. We have named ourselves Temuco, the citizen municipality, because we believe that members of the community are essential for our democracy, which is participatory.
Yes.
Mayor, thank you so much. I was listening to what you were saying, and we are halfway through this path, and I see that you have heard a lot of the citizens to try to see the corner shops and the safe places. So after the implementation, what's back? What's the impact that you have measured based on all the information you have been able to assess to bring a solution?
First of all, it's a change in paradigm of the concept of the official. Of course, the mayor cannot do everything. The official is the one that needs to understand that his or her public role is for the community. So that co-responsibility that arises when we understand this new vision from politicians of putting closer or being closer to the community cannot be a disadvantage of the government towards the community. I will give an example. As a person was writing to me, I called DORRED, the network for medical care. I called and I never received the physician, and you are the one that is always promoting the network. So I wrote back to the person in charge and I said, hey, that official cannot say that the physician is not coming. We are opening the doors of the government for the citizen to contact back to the municipality, and that person needs a reply independently of when the physician is coming to my home. This person received an answer, which is something fundamental for them. And that's the reason why, if we don't do that, the citizens are moving away from government entities, because we are not able to transform the narrative into action.
Thank you so much for your answers and to complete the ideas about your experiences. So now I invite you to get to know the experience of Polonia by Mr. Firek. He's going to tell us about the process of public consultations that they have allowed in Poland to build laws. So please go ahead.
Very much. Buenas tardes. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Wojciech Firek. I am from Poland, actually, from Jagiellonian University, and I will be talking in English because my Spanish is still working in progress project. Sorry for that. And it's limited to the few phrases, like most important phrases, like democracia participativa and café con leche, por favor. So, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, what I may offer you, it's a small 10 minutes flight from Latin America, from our distinguished guest to the Poland, to the Europe, and to show you one of example of participatory tool, public e-consultation of parliamentary bills in Poland. I hope this slide will be really fascinating for you, so please sit your seatbelts, feel comfortable, and of course it will be business class because I have a few slides for you. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with a small remark. This process in Poland was not on the local level as the rest of example. It was on the national level, on the national parliamentary process of legislation, of taking the bills in parliament. And it was a big revolution in our country because it was the second participatory tool on this process in Europe. First was in Norway, the second was the Poland. And this platform, as e-consultation, I guess it's very well-known process, but what is interesting, it was implemented on the very formal and very official procedure, which is proceedings the law in the country. So it was a revolution for us, and it allows all citizens to comment these bills on the parliamentary level. So let's see how it works. The main principle was that e-consultation was, the deadline, it was 30 days for it. This method was in some parts obligation, mandatory, for example, for the bills which comes from the members of parliament, and in some cases were obligatory, was not obligatory. And also excluded for the bills comes from government because government has own procedure of consultation. So as you can see, it was a very broad cases which this method should be used, or some must to be used. It was small exemptions of it from the special power of Polish speakers, in Poland, the marszałek in Poland. To depends with or set the shorter the deadline for the e-consultation, or cancel or even cancel it in the process. But what is very important from the perspective of open and transparent government, this if Marshal use his special power, needs to also publish a notice explaining the real important reason why he or she used this special power. And you can see the building of the Polish parliament, right, this on the slide. Okay, the details. The e-consultation was provided by an online platform, which all citizens, Polish citizens, can use via phone or via a website. What is important, it was not anonymous. The people needs to provide their data, needs to logged via official app. And this process, this platform was linked with the same with the Parliament website. It was very useful for the citizens because, as you can see on this slide, here is the example of a parliamentary bill amending the act of the tax of certain financial institutions. And this is the information about the act. Each act in Poland must to be published on this system. And on the right side of this website, you have a place when you can log in and you comment this act. So it's very easy to the citizens. Very important thing that participants, the people, can comment this act or like a whole act or just the specific parts of it. process of consultation was divided in two main stages. First was like a forms, it was questions, a few questions. The methodology of these questions were also divided into steps. The first was in the Likert scale from 1 to 5. We also know this scale from the school, right? When you have 3 questions, in your opinion, is adopt the bill necessary? Do you approve the solution contained in the bill? And do you agree with the statement that you directly affect the regulation in the bill, right? And you mark the scale from 1 to 5. And this is the example. I think that it looks familiar from Google, because Polish Parliament wants to cooperate with the Google, and it was the example how Google provide their system to this platform. Right, and then was the second part when there is 7 questions with yes or no answers, which can you see from 3 to 5. It's about social, economic, and legal impact, how this bill will impact on this specific issue. It's very important because in Poland the procedure looks like if one of the members wants to prepare a bill, needs to justify this impact, and then the citizens can check this impact in this process. So it's very, very easy to understand how it works and how it's linked between these two, first time when you prepare the bill and the second time when you comment it. And here some examples. And the second stage of this process, which is the most interesting, I guess, for you maybe. The platforms allow citizens also to comment each part of the bill, like one article, Article 3, Article 10, which is this revolution, I mean, because each citizens can also comment, also reject this proposal, also make some amendments to it. So it's very, very open and very inclusive for the citizens to propose another regulation or another article for just one specific cases. What are the main effects of this process? All comments are collected and then published. What is very important, all comments are collected and published with the names of the participants, because as I said before, the whole process is not anonymous. So it allows also to protect from some strange situation when, you know, Mark 001 say something. It's not that way. The process should be official, should be also available to check. And what important, the people can participate as a person and a human, and also like NGOs or companies, because it's the two ways to comment this act. Unfortunately, this method is one way on one side method, because participants gives the comment, but they don't get the feedback from the whole process, unfortunately. At the current moment, maybe in the future it will change, but try to imagine how it works in Poland when we have 33 million citizens, when we need to get a feedback to all of these people. Some statistics from this method, because as I said before, this method was implemented in November 2024, so just few months ago in Poland, and we have the first evaluation about the implemented this tool. As you can see, we have about 48 bills which was commented. In this process, we had 26,000, more than 26,000 of people who participate, which is actually good for a new tool, right? It's just a little bit a pilot. In the few next months should be upgrade to the more and broad tool. And we have a very interesting impact of whole legislation, because I want to share one example. We observe that this tool is the best from organized group. Like this tool was created for each participants, but it's the best for the organized groups. For instance, we have the bill about limitate the hunters, about limitate the right to have a gun on your right pocket if you want to hit the, I don't know, some animals. Yeah. And then try to imagine how the hunters in Poland was shocked with this law, with this bill, and try to stop and limitation the bill. And more than half of this 26,000 people was the hunters to stop this legislation, to limit it then. And what was the result? The result was, okay, we need to stop, we need to think about this issue, we need to make a broad discussion. So for now, for current moment, this legislation process is suspended, and the parliament needs to open this discussion like a broader problem. So it's very useful tool and shows how sometimes this broad discussion are needed. That's for me for now. If I may, I would like also invite you to the Krakow, because the Krakow will be the next host city of EOPD conference. So if you are more interested about some tools or just to visit this main screen in Krakow, please come to us in Krakow. Thank you very much for your attention.
Gracias. Muchísimas
Thank you, Mr. Firek. I hope we can come see you. And to have more information about this specific tool, very useful and impactful. Thank you for sharing this experience on citizen participation that has shown results. Now I invite Anderson Farias, who is coming for Umbawa, Brazil. He is a former mayor of that city. And Anderson, would you like to talk a little bit about the map of hunger and what happens when we have populations or people that are excluded, and how we can generate inclusion, maybe through strategies of open government?
Thank you very much for the invitation. I would like to reflect upon a bit when the open government is based on the assumption, a basic assumption, that in order to have an open government, there's a need for democracy to be at stake. There isn't any assumption in which democracy is out of the question. Democracy is needed for a system of inclusion. Without democracy, there's no need or there's no possibility to have an inclusive environment. Brazil have created for 30 years an open government that is now advanced with local conferences, regional summits, and national meetings. As you can see, very advanced in terms of policies for open government. This construction took us more than 30 years to be consolidated. And all this was dismantled in a series of months, because we have now an authoritarian government in Brazil. All this construction founded on open government was dismantled completely. Therefore, we need to reflect upon this topic, which are the foundations of democracy. Oidp, our governments, we all need to think about that. We are the leaders, we represent democratic institutions, and we are called to exchange our best practices in relation to public policies in our municipalities, in our territories. However, we also need to reconsider the growth of anti-democratic policies. We need to reflect upon the growth of neo-fascism and the success of its representatives. We need to think about the reasons why we are losing the narrative that strikes us as strengthening democracy. We are facing the risk. We're facing the risk of seeing a fragile democracy for future generations. We need to rethink that every time we meet in our governing policies. We need to include the topic in our programs, in our open policy programs. Every time we communicate with the citizens and with politicians, we need to think about this. Making a better world, leaving a better world for future generations is the mission of all of us. We must have a stronger democracy that we have today for the future generations that is under risk in all parts of the world. So I bring up all these statements for us to think that we need to reconsider open government policies and the dismantling of and the destruction of those policies. Therefore, this was just a way of provoking us to reflect upon these topics.
Thank you, Anderson. And I invite all of you to answer the following question very shortly. How do you see the future of policies regarding open government? Whoever would like to respond to that question, please go ahead.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. Yeah, it's really important to think about what is the direct place of our community in the democracy for now, because we have participatory democracy, we have a deliberative democracy, we have many ways, many pathways, and which is the best? That's the key question. And unfortunately, we observe that the words are not followed to these pathways. That's true. But answer the question. From my perspective, I'm the lawyer, so the perspective will be legal perspective. Sorry for that. But I would like to, according to your first speeches, about what is the main core of the participation. The main core participation is not the privilege, as you said. It was beautiful. It's the right. It's very important to think about the participation. It's just human rights. Just the human rights. And what is the effect if the participation is a human right? We need to guarantee and we need to protect them from another rights and another issue. Like I mean with the conflict with these rights. It's very important and very tough how to do it. Of course, it's another discussion. But we need to think about participation as a right. It's not a very popular thesis in we look to the literature, because try imagine go to the court and say, okay, I have the right to participation. And the court say, no, you don't have this right. You have the right to public information, maybe some rights to assembly, but not a direct right to the participation. It's a problem. And I think in the next few years we need to think how participation should work as a right. Thank you.
Bueno, yo voy a, como decimos acá.
As I said, as I wanted to go back to what Anderson was saying and the mayor of Temuco. And at the end of what I was talking about before, this paradigm also implies a new architecture in the power. That means a change to where the power is going to be. If we change that, then the power is lost. So new administrations should understand that lost in the power is a benefit, because outside there is a collective knowledge. And even in my case, that I have a public position, I also believe that it is key. I'm going back to Anderson and the mayor of Temuco. It's important for us to establish again the trust from the people to the government. We have the duty of putting the population where it belongs. So we have to think that the government is basically here taking the message from one way to another. It seems that the speech of hate is part of society now. Sometimes we talk about a lot of individuality and competence. Those are the rules of the market. They shouldn't, and they shouldn't be the ones driving society. We have to pay attention to that, because we see all these rules in the market, and we are buying all these things, let's say on your phone, buying unnecessary things. But if the market is making us buy instead of making us create or co-create with others, so I see an interesting challenge in that aspect. I also wanted to talk about the impact of this conference on connect, integrate, and humanize. We're living in a society, in a narcissist society, where others are barely seen. So how in politics we can get back the role of the government for the common good. So I want to talk about what here my partner from Poland said, because of my experience in politics. I can say that there is a concept from Spinoza written in the 17th century, but we have to think about that within this framework. It's the concept of meeting. He said that the role of the government, it doesn't have to do the monuments, but it has to do with the people and with the crowd. He said, when we collaborate and when we meet, we are not individuals, each on their own spaces. We share common values. So when we meet, we promote our power as a group. So we have to embrace that transformative engine. And the other thing that I was wanting to say, when the state that is now interrupted by society is just talking to itself. So I think that is what's happening in our national context in Argentina.
Thank you very much. We have some minutes left if someone wants to ask something. I see someone that raised their hand right at the back of the auditorium. No.
Marco, ahí está. Gracias.
Thank you. Mariano Barreiro is my name. I am from the Republic of Paraguay, member of OGP in Paraguay. So the challenge of open government in Latin America becomes even more notorious. We had a participatory process within the government back then, and the process was not participatory. In Latin America, we see that new laws are looking into controlling NGOs these laws have different names. I don't know how they're called in Peru or Salvador, and I don't know how you call these laws in particular in Venezuela either. But regardless of that, we try to have an open and participatory government. But there is a tendency for governments not to be participatory. In different countries, even I would like to know, what do you propose as authorities to do under these conditions?
I don't know who would like to answer. Please, a brief answer so that we can have more questions. What the assistant is saying is to strengthening democracy. And in order to strengthen democracy, what Manuel said is that now we use the word freedom in such a plain way that is shocking. The same happened in Brazil with a government that broke down all the participatory schema when Brazil was a role model. So when we see the appearance of populist characters, democracy weakens because these movements look for the no participation of citizens, keep citizens ignorant, because that's the only way that they don't bother politics. So this is necessary to understand from our end as local governments have a true opportunity to fight against these sort of dictatorship-like regimes. These are dictatorship in the sense of they place in front of your eyes the market only, and they end with all sorts of processes related to participation, related to democracy, processes related for the citizen to ask for accountability to politicians. At the end of the day, the only thing that I can say to the member from Paraguay, Latin America is living a complex situation. In Chile, we are undergoing something similar, and we have a candidate running for the presidency who said that this is something that he said to the press in a region where we have a conflict with the Mapuche community. He said that giving benefits to someone that descends from a Mapuche community, he needed to take a DNA test, granting an 85% of ancestry in the indigenous community or Mapuche community. So this is going back more than 80 years back in history, similar to what happened in Germany. So be careful, open your eyes, because we said that we fight for democracy, and we have the moral duty of defending democracy as much as we can, no matter what is the political party of the other person.
Thank you so much. Is there another question from the public? Yes. My question, I am from Ecuador. Mónica Pesante is my name. So going back to the previous speaker saying that Latin America is living neo-fascism. And regarding the Constitution in 2008, where rights were given to nature, and the first time were given to groups of first priority. But groups of first priority were given attention. And this is very important because these groups have already public policies, but those who are vulnerable, we know that we should be under the same conditions. So I feel like we're going backwards, and Ecuador is living through all of that. But those of us who think about revolution and defend rights are here. And it's an honor for me to be at the head of citizen participation, where we talk about open government. and also where I'm from, we make sure that any type of things that the citizens have to do, like let's say paying for registration for the plates for the car, or anything related to what the citizens need, we try to facilitate on ways to get to rural areas, in places where we don't even have health services, where we don't have sewer system. And then regarding transparency, we as a council, we try to be more transparent towards other bodies. We say where we're going, what we are doing, because we get paid. So we try to work in the territories. So I would like to know, how has it worked with transparency in rural areas and open government?
Thank you very much for the question. I get moved to know that in Ecuador, there is a province, Santo Domingo de las Áchilas, which is an example, a role model. They are an example on how we can reach rural communities. How is the government going to the rural areas? So I think that there is the key. There's no point in inventing new things. There aren't sometimes resources when we start from scratch, when there are basic needs that are missing. So I invite you to go to the places where people are, generate spaces where there is open government. That should be part of the identity of this concept. The point is not inventing new things, but using what we have done, go to the places where people are. And I think that yesterday we had participants from General Pico as well. They all said how important it is to use the spaces that are open. It's a way of changing culture, and use the spaces that are open. I would love to give you the contact and connect you with the community that I am making reference to. I don't know if anyone else would like to add something else.
If not, I think we can say that that question was answered. We only have a few minutes left because it's almost time. So I do have one last question to see if some of you or one of you can give me an answer. When you talk about open government and transparency, we also have to think about technology and artificial intelligence. Today, artificial intelligence is becoming disruptive on how things work. Have you thought now about any solutions linked to artificial intelligence in regards to open government, or do you have any recommendations for AI for open government?
In Sao Paulo, we have a platform for citizen participation, and there is something very interesting here. In this platform, citizens propose the destiny of funds. We analyze the feasibility, technically possible to do and legally possible to do, and if can be used within the budget that we have established. So we are researching how we can use artificial intelligence to help people hand in proposals. So if they are making a suggestion that will definitely be denied because they do not comply with the requirements or the legal framework, the idea would be to have this AI tool that could help them, give them an input on, well, this is not feasible, so it is rejected.
AI has to be very well put to use in a good way. In Brazil, many cities have started to replace offices for ombudsman, and also they are replacing a client communication with chat box. So there is not that communication between the public and the government. So that's very worrisome. However, should we be against technology? That's a reflection to keep in mind. Another one is that we should use technology on how big corporations use it, because we see that it's making population stay away from us, from the government. We should try to find mechanisms how to use the artificial intelligence. There should be a reflection on the use of the technology. For these mechanisms on participation, let's say by using the phone, but it shouldn't be with communication face-to-face with people.
Thank you very much for being brief. We know that these topics are interesting and we could speak a lot, so I really appreciate that you have used your time perfectly well. Thank you very much to all the assistants for paying attention the whole session, and please a round of applause for all our speakers who have shared with us very interesting ideas and challenging ideas. So I think that we are all going back home reflecting upon the open government. What else is it that we can do? And we would love to know more of the experiences that each of you have shared. Yes, you are on time. Good. So happy to have complied with the objective of session number 10, and we invite you to keep on enjoying this conference. Thank you very much. Thank you. We're going to invite Pablo Rodriguez Colantonio, the Chief of Research and Development, to hand in some gifts to the speakers from the municipality.
Hacemos una foto final.
We are going to take a picture with all the speakers.
Les recomiendo.
I suggest you to move in front of the table.
Ahora sí. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you very much to all our speakers, and thank you all for being here today. See you tomorrow at 9 o'clock in this same venue. We are going to be speaking about caring cities. Hope to see you tomorrow.